Alright, so we've done master data extraction. Now let's look at transaction data extraction. And first thing I want to do is go to ECC and go to RSA5. So I come to the main screen like this, do RSA5 and identify a transaction data extractor, which is, we will talk about financial. So I will extend SAP R3, FI, let's talk about FIGL, and a transaction data extractor called general ledger line items with delta extraction. Okay, I'm going to install the content here. So click on the extractor. So just to see what is in the extractor, we double click here.
And once you do that, you get this extractor it extracts general ledger line items with delta extraction. It's a delta enabled extractor. This is the extract structure. If you double click on it, that's what you're seeing down below, all the fields. And this is the extract structure, all the fields, your company code, your fiscal period, and accounting document number, line item, and a whole bunch of fields. There are about 80 fields which are being extracted. Now that's the extractor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and say activate data sources. It's going to come up with a pop-up. That's fine. This is the transport. So if it comes up with the transport, just click on continue here. And now this particular extractor is active. So from a D mode, it has come to an A mode, meaning it can be used in our solution. Now before I move on to the BW side, I will click on this new session here and do RSA3. What is RSA3 for? RSA3 is for testing the extractor. What you activated, is it really working or not, is what we are checking here. So I will do RSA3 and I have already entered the data source here, and let's extract only one company code data. So let's say I choose the company code. Where is US? I think US is 3000 right here. You click on this and we press the execute button. And it has extracted 1052 records. So basically, let's look at the data, what it has extracted. So it's all company code 3000, different FI document numbers and item numbers, and it has fetched the data. So the extractor activation within RSA5 has worked, and this extractor is ready to be used. Now what do I do? Just like any other master data related stuff, I log into BW, so I have nothing to do with ECC anymore. So I will log out of this system. I don't need ECC anymore. Excuse me. And now within ECC, I will do RSA1. And I'll go to under modeling, I'll click on data sources. Obviously, I'll choose the source system which is involved, which is T90CLNT090. That's the ECC system. It is wrongly grouped under BW, so don't get confused. It is just a test system and that is wrongly grouped. Basically, this T90CLNT090 is an ECC client. Once I get in there, alright, I will see all my data sources and within application components. So within modeling data sources, I see my SAP components. Then I go to financial accounting. Under financial accounting, I will extend or expand financial accounting general ledger, and I will find right here, you see this 0FIGL4, which is the data source. What's happening, Sanjay? You're not able to see the screen? Ranjit, you're able to see my screen? Vinay? Okay, so it must be on your side, Sanjay. What is happening? Is it slow or what? You're able to see or not able to see at all? Okay, yeah, it should be slow because of the network. So here, if you see, under financial accounting general ledger application component, you have this GL4 data source. Now you can also find, once you know, identify the data source which you're working with, you can do a search here and put the 0fi underscore GL underscore 4 data source and do a search. So it gives you 4, but there's this one, it is pointing towards 41. So do a find next here on the top. 40, that's not the one. This is the one. So now this is an emulated data source. It has got this white box, which means that I can build a 7-point flow or a 3-point flow. Now what is the thumb rule here? Going forward, all ETL flows will be built only in the form of 7-point flows. So what do you need to do to make sure that that happens? You need to right click on this data source and say migrate. When you do that, it is going to come up with this pop-up. This pop-up says, how do you want to export or migrate this? Without export or with export? Always remember, you need to do it with export. The reason being, if you do it, yeah, Ranjit, by default, all emulated data sources. So the question was, how do I figure out that I should build a 7-point flow or a 3-point flow? First of all, it is driven by your client, okay? Because we don't go back into the history. When the software is the latest software what we are using, we want to build 7-point flows. Now, having said that, why do we need to migrate is because this is an emulated flow. So I can build transfer rules and update rules, which is 3-point related stuff, or even transformation and DTP, which is 7-point flow. So the thumb rule is, going forward, you should only build 7-point flow. So to do that, you need to migrate. Okay, you got the point? So to answer your question, how do I know? You don't need to know. Your client is going to drive what you're going to do. But you know, for emulated data sources, you have an option technically to do a 3-point flow as well as 7-point flow. That at least you should know. All right. So now I will do with export. What does this with export option do? It will, no, you will not have transfer rules and update rules in 7-point You will only have transformation. Okay. The question was, in 3-point in 7-point do you have transfer rules and update rules? No. What happened is, when SAP had 3-point system, they had the transformation logic was divided into update rules and transfer rules. First the transfer rules and then the update rules. But to simplify the whole applying of business rules concept, what SAP did is, they just put a concept of transformation. That's it, period. So instead of having update rules, transfer rules, etc., they just have transformation in 7-point to make our life easy. Okay. Now coming back to this topic, why do we need to do with export? We need to do it with export as a best practice because Let us say I'm migrating a data source from an emulated data source version, what you see right now, because of the square box. Correct, Sanranjit. We want to do it with export because we can always recover the 3.x or the emulated data source if something wrong happens. Let's say if the extractor is not working in 7.x once we migrate it. There is some technical problem, etc., which is very rare. It doesn't happen. But just in case you want to recover 3.x, you always need to do with export. If you do without export, you can never get back the 3.x data source again in the system. Okay, so now I'm going to click with export. See down below, it is creating all the PSA tables and all that it creates, and finally migrates the data source to a 7.x data source. Once it is migrated to 7.x data source, then the next steps will come. So hold on for a minute. It is still activating the PSA table. It is -7 or -10 in Chicago right now. So from a 32 degrees Celsius weather in Hyderabad, I've come to a negative temperature in about 18 hours. Okay. Yeah, Ranjit, yes, I heard that last 2 weeks it was even worse. Correct. Okay. Oh my God. All right. So now, once I migrated that emulated icon, the white checkbox like what you see here is gone. You see this? Once it is gone, now it is very simple. Right click on it and say this is a delta extractor, right? So before the go live date, what are you going to do? You are going to do the full historical load, isn't it? So I will create an info package saying init info pack, init info package to load history and okay. So I will choose this, press the save button, and since this for selection I'm not going to give any selection, extraction I'm not going to give anything, processing, in update I'm going to choose initialize delta process. And what is the option I'm going to choose? Initialization with data transfer, meaning what is it going to do? It is going to bring all the historical data into the PSA, into the BW system, and also determines or tells the system that the next load will be a delta load only. That's what initialization is all about. Here we are initializing the delta process, but we are initializing with data transfer. When you do that, it not only brings the data, all the historical data, but it also tells the system that the next load from ECC to BI for this data source is going to be a delta load. So I'm gonna go to save button right here on the top, save the info package, and now go to the schedule tab, and I'm going to run this bad boy. Alright, so down below it says data was requested, and I'm going to the monitor, which is this button right here. So it will extract all the data, all the historical data in the ECC system into BI and initializes the delta. So let's wait there for a minute or two, and I'm going to switch off the recording for some time, and address 2 will be, let's say, apartment 10. City is New York. Country is US. Region is North America. Department is 1001A or 11A, something like that. It's a department code. So this is my employee master attribute data. Okay. Now let's talk about email also. Email ID. Okay. So let's say this is John Mayer at yahoo.com. Okay. So that's the email ID. Now after some time, so this is as of today. Tomorrow, the same employee has everything, the same, but he stopped using this Yahoo ID. So he will update the HR department saying, now I am giving a different okay. Now what happens when I load master data? If I don't have time dependency activated, the old record gets overwritten with the new record, meaning this will become modified, this will become deleted mode, this will become modified mode. Okay. Now in reports, if I don't run the attribute change run, the report will still show this attributes if I am choosing any of the attributes in the report. Employee number, and it will show the email ID as John Mayer. It will not show JHMAYOR yet. Why? Because this is not in active mode. This is still in modified mode. Okay. So when you run the attribute change run program, this gets eliminated completely, and this record comes in here and it becomes active mode. So for all practical purposes, your report will show the right and the most current attribute which has been changed recently. So that's what the attribute change run program does. Meaning, attribute change run is a program which needs to be run every day or every time after a master data load is successfully done to BW, to make sure that the latest attributes are available for reporting if they are changed. If there is no change, obviously there is no change. But if there's a change, you want only the latest and the greatest data to be appearing in the report. Clear, Vinay? Vinay, you clear? Okay. Now, attribute change run is done two ways. Last class I have told you already, but since we're talking about the subject matter here, let me show you. In BW RSA fun, you go to the top, under tools, you have the attribute apply hierarchy / attribute change run. You click on this. Any info object which has changed master data automatically will appear in this button. If you click this button, it will appear automatically. Just choose everything, save it, and here's an execute button right here. Just execute the button. It says a job has been scheduled. Now if I want, so this, if you see the latest entry, you see this, it says so and so is scheduled at so and so time with the user ID and all that. You keep refreshing. Now it says it is running. Okay. Yeah, it is automated through process chain, Vinay. It's automated through process chain. Okay, so there's an attribute change run step in a process chain which you include. This is the manual version of doing it. All right. Okay. So let's refresh it. Once it is done now, and it is done, and it has finished the attribute change run. Now if you click on this info object list, there's nothing, meaning all the info objects where there's been changed to attributes have been updated successfully. Okay. The other way is there's a transaction code which you use for process chains. This is how you develop process chains to update your ETL process. Okay. And let me choose, somebody might have created something. Hold on. But I'll show you that step which is you see this attribute change run, you will have it as one of the steps after the load happens, and it will automatically do the attribute change for the change run for those info objects in question. And this I will cover when I'm doing the process chain. All right. So now let us see if this load has been completed. So let's right click on the data source and say manage. It's not completed yet, it's still running. So let's see how many records it just got. 620,000 and running still. So let it run. Okay. Yes, attribute change run is only for master data changes. You don't have attributes for transaction data, isn't it? Attributes and hierarchies is only master data related. Okay. Okay, so let it run here. I don't know how much time it's gonna take. Let's see what it is doing in the details tab. Yeah, it's still extracting. Okay, hold on. Let me stop recording here. All right, load is done to the PSA. Now I go back. You see the PSA request not updated to any data target with Delta. Now I am going to info providers and search on 0FI GL star, and I will check which DSO gets loaded from PSA. So let's see if I can find any DSO. Now this is not giving me a clear picture, so what I'll do is I'll go to help.sap.com. all right, and search on BI content. to see which DSO needs to get loaded from PSA. So I will go to NetWeaver Business Warehouse, BI content. Let's pick anything, even if it's an older version, that's fine, nothing much changed here. I will go to BI content. ERP, central component, financials, financial accounting. We are loading general ledger, isn't it? So we'll click on general ledger and click on data store objects, general ledger line items, and this DSO gets loaded from this extractor, and this is the extractor which we are using right now. So I need to load, first see whether this particular DSO is active in the system or not, right? That's what I need to do. So I will log out of ECC, no need. Go to BI and search on this DSO right there. It's not active. If you see, this is light green color and it's not equal to sign. So let me activate it explicitly here, or I can activate through BI content activation also. There are two things which you can do. So just a sanity check whether all the key fields and the data fields are there. And now I'm going to activate this DSO. Because from PSA, we need to load to this DSO, isn't it? This is the DSO which stores the general ledger line items data for reporting or consolidation. So the DSO is active now. So what do I need to load from PSA to DSO? What object do I need to create within the ETL flow to load it from PSA, which is 0GL underscore FI underscore 4, to a DSO called 0FIGL underscore O02? What do I create? Transformation? Yes. Now the source of the transformation is a data source. And what is the data source name? 0FI underscore GL underscore 4. And the source system is, let's do a pull down here. What is the source system here? T90 CLNT090, and just say continue or create transformation. and I will do the toggle button to show the full screen here. Everything is mapped. Activate the transformation. It is going to come up with a lock display. It doesn't matter. Transformation is activated. Now what is that I need to do to load data from PSA to DSO? After transformation, I create a DTP. Right click on the DTP. Say create DTP. Everything gets filled in automatically. Don't do anything with the DTP. Just keep the extraction mode to delta and activate it. Now go to execute tab and just execute. So it's going to get that 1.1 million records from PSA and load it to the DSO. Okay. Now this DSO is a standard DSO, so there will be an activation process which will follow. After the 1.1 million data records get into the active, so the new data table, you will run the activation, and the data will go from new data table to the active table, and it will be available for further update or reporting. Okay. Now, regarding project, I don't know how many of you have finished all the exercises. At this moment, don't even IM me on what has been done, what has not been done. But the next exercise will be a transaction data, or 1 or 2 transaction data loads which you need to set up like this, and you got to act fast. Okay, so I'm not going to give you so much time to do things because we are getting delayed here. Alright, so you see this data is loading right now, and it's going to take some time to load 1.2 million records. So I'm not going to wait for the entire load to complete. So this is how I do my ECC load into the different targets. Now, yeah, Prabhakar, I don't know why Satish has not responded. I'm going to send him an email today again. I have actually told the office a couple of times to address your issues. What is the connectivity issues you're having? You are not able to go to RDC. Are you able to go to RDC? Remote desktop connection. What is the user ID that he has given you for RDC? You're using a PC or a Mac? Okay, I'll ask him to address it via GoToMeeting, and then yeah, basically that should take care of it. So I will again get in touch with him. Let it finish, because once this load gets finished, we will run the activation process, which might take time. But I can also show you how to set up the Delta info package. Obviously, I won't be doing any posting right now in ECC to show you that how Delta is captured. But the next step is, now this is all historical load which we did. All history is being brought in and the initialization has been triggered. So now how do you know that a delta has been initialized? Nothing. It's so simple. Go to the info package which you just scheduled to load to PSA. Just double click on it and go to the top. It's still running, so it's not allowing me. Hold on. Still running. So how do I see whether a delta has been initialized? So if you go to the info package here, this is the info package, isn't it? Go to scheduler and check this initialization options for source system. You see this red with a checkbox, and that means the delta has been initialized. Okay, so keep that in mind. So you got to go to the info package and say initialization options for source system to look at that. So let's see if it is still running. No, it's done. Now the data should be in new table. Now I will run the activation. Okay. Now I will, let's say the go live is on Monday morning, from Monday night onwards deltas have to run. So how will I do it? I'll right click on the data source and again create an info package, and I will schedule this on a nightly basis via a process change. So here I will say delta load. Sorry. And here, if you go to update, now you choose delta update. You won't choose initialize delta process again because we already did that. And you will choose delta update and you will schedule this job on a daily basis in the night. Okay. And if you now see, I should have two info packages. One info package which says initialization info package, loading history and delta initialization, and then delta loads. Okay. So now let's see if this data got activated. It's still running. 1.1 million records for activation will take time. So let's leave it at that. Now, for each one of you, I'm going to give you, based on the areas what identified, I'm going to give you minimum one transaction data source to work with, including the DSO information and things like that. And I want you to work on that and also complete the master data extraction. Everything should be complete before the next class, which is Tuesday. Okay. So with that, you should be able to complete a financials extraction. Then we move on to logistics side of it, which is slightly different from extracting financial data. Okay, so there's a different kind of setup which you need to do to set that particular ETL up. Clear? All right. Okay. So with this, I close today's class. It's gonna be it's a short class, and we are going to touch base on Tuesday morning. I'll let you know the timing. It should be 7:15 or 7:30 because few people wanted it back at 7:30. So we will schedule it back at 7:30 India time. Okay, 7:30 in the morning. So Tuesday, we'll have class. Actually, I'm taking a flight to get to a different place on Monday night, which is Tuesday morning. If my flight gets delayed, then the class will get delayed. Otherwise, we'll have a class. Okay, so I will let you know before I board the flight. I'm actually traveling to West Coast. All right. With that, I close today's class, and we will touch base on Tuesday on a different topic. All right. Thank you, guys.